The baby refused her touch, but clung to the woman who had lost her own child. Eliza Harrow stood in the doorway, not moving, not breathing, just watching. Naomi sat by the window, bathed in pale morning light. Her head bowed slightly, as the child fed against her chest. Back and forth, slow, steady, like it had always been this way. Like the child belonged there, not in Eliza's arms, but in hers. Clara's tiny fingers curled, gripping Naomi's dress, holding on, instinctively, desperately, as if she knew exactly where she felt safe. Eliza's hand tightened around the doorframe. White knuckles, cold skin, because she had tried. God, she had tried. The first time she held her daughter, Clara had cried. Not softly, not uncertainly, but violently, like something was wrong, like she didn't belong there. But now, quiet, still, content. All it took was Naomi. "She's feeding well today, ma'am." Naomi's voice was soft, careful, measured, like she had learned exactly how to speak in this house. Eliza didn't answer immediately, because her eyes couldn't leave the scene. The way Naomi held the child, not like a servant, not like a duty, but like something that belonged to her. So I can see that. The words came out colder than intended, sharpened, controlled. Naomi adjusted slightly, instinctively supporting the baby's head, her fingers brushing Clara's cheek. And Clara leaned into it, not away, never away. That was the part that hurt. Not the feeding, not the dependency, but the response, the choice. Because children didn't lie. They didn't pretend. They didn't perform. They went where they felt safe. "Would you like to hold her now, ma'am?" Naomi's voice again. Gentle, offering. Eliza's body stiffened. For a second, just a second, she almost stepped forward, almost reached out, almost. No. Too fast. Too sharp. Naomi froze. The room shifted. Just slightly. But enough. "Continue," Eliza added quietly. Each word measured. Controlled. Naomi nodded. But something in her eyes changed. Something cautious. Something wounded. Clara stirred. A tiny sound. Barely there. But Naomi responded instantly. Rocking. Whispering. Soothing. Without thinking. Without effort. And Eliza saw it, clearer than ever before. This wasn't practice. This wasn't learned. This was instinct. And instinct couldn't be taken. Eliza turned away. Too suddenly. The movement sharp. Almost violent. "I'll be in the study. Send for me when you're done." She didn't look back. Couldn't. Because if she did, she wasn't sure what she would see. Or worse, what she would feel. The hallway stretched endlessly. Portraits watched her pass. Eyes painted with certainty, with order, with control. Things that no longer existed. 6 weeks ago, this house had been full of structure, of roles, of meaning. Now, it felt like something had shifted. Not broken, not shattered, just replaced. Eliza reached the study door. Her hand hovered over the handle, because something had begun to form. Quiet, unspoken, a question she couldn't stop hearing. If the child didn't need her, then what was she supposed to be? The next morning, Eliza didn't go to the nursery. Not at first. She stayed in the study, pretending to read the same page, again and again. because every sound, every tiny movement in the house, pulled her attention back upstairs. There it was, soft, content, not crying, never crying, not when Naomi was there. Eliza closed the book, slowly, deliberately, as if that might quiet the thought. It didn't. She rose, walked toward the door, then stopped. No, not yet. She wouldn't go like yesterday, wouldn't stand there, watching. Today, she would see, up the stairs, careful, measured, not a sound more than necessary. She knew exactly where to step, which boards would betray her, which wouldn't, because this wasn't the first time. She had been doing this for days. She reached the hallway, paused, listening. Naomi's voice, soft, low, not speaking to anyone else, humming, the same melody, over and over. Eliza leaned closer to the door, just enough to see through the narrow opening. Naomi sat in the chair again, Clara in her arms, not feeding this time, just holding, rocking, and humming that tune. Soft, gentle, endless. Clara's eyes were closed, her face calm, peaceful, the kind of peace Eliza had never been able to give her. Eliza's fingers pressed into the doorframe, harder now, until her nails hurt. What was it about that sound? Why did the child respond to it so completely? Why did she never respond like that to her? Eliza's eyes narrowed, studying, not watching anymore, analyzing. Naomi didn't look like a servant, not in that moment. Her posture, her touch, her stillness, it was too natural, too familiar, like she had done this before. The thought came quickly, uninvited, and once it formed, it didn't leave. Before. Eliza stepped back, suddenly, too suddenly, her chest rising, falling, faster now. No, no, that was absurd. Had lost her child. Everyone knew that. But still, why that song? Why that instinct? Why that connection? Eliza turned away, walked down the hall, faster now, not careful anymore, because something had shifted, something she couldn't unsee. This wasn't just attachment. It felt like replacement. She reached the bottom of the stairs, stopped, one hand gripping the railing, her mind racing now, filling the gaps, connecting pieces that had never been connected before. Naomi, the timing of her arrival, the ease, the bond, and William, always distant, always occupied, always absent. Eliza's eyes lifted slowly, something darker settling behind them. What if this wasn't coincidence? What if it had never been her child to begin with? That night, Eliza didn't sleep. She lay awake, eyes open, staring into the dark. Every sound in the house felt sharper, closer, because now she wasn't imagining anymore. She was remembering. The way Naomi held the child, the way Clara responded, the way that lullaby never faltered. Perfect, too perfect. And then, it came back. The night Clara was born. Heat, pain, voices everywhere. Doctors, servants, everything blurred together. She had barely been conscious, barely aware. There had been a moment, just one, where the child was taken from her. Only for a few minutes. That's what they said. Only a few minutes. Eliza sat up suddenly, the room spinning slightly. Because now, that memory didn't feel small anymore. It felt like a gap. A space where something could have changed. Something could have been switched. No. She whispered it. But her voice didn't sound certain. Because the thought had already taken root. And once it did, it began to grow. The next morning, she didn't wait. No hesitation. No careful steps. She pushed the nursery door open. Harder than before. Naomi looked up instantly. Clara in her arms. Everything froze. For a second. Just a second. But that second was enough. Eliza saw it. The shift in Naomi's eyes. Not fear. Recognition. Like she knew. This moment had been coming. Give her to me. No softness. No hesitation. Naomi didn't move right away. Not refusal. Not defiance. Just careful. Then she stood, walked forward, and placed Clara in Eliza's arms. For a moment, nothing happened. Clara blinked, looked up, confused, and then, it started. Soft at first, then stronger. The same cry, the same rejection. Eliza's grip tightened, her breath catching. No. Stop. But it didn't. It never did. Because it wasn't about comfort. It wasn't about timing. It was about recognition. Isn't yours. Eliza's eyes snapped up, locking onto Naomi. Standing there. Watching. Waiting. Too calm. Too still. What did you do? The words came out low. Dangerously low. Naomi didn't answer. Just that same look. That same quiet control. You think I don't see it? Eliza stepped forward. Clara still crying in her arms. You think I don't know? The room tightened. Air thinning. Everything narrowing to that moment. You replaced her. Naomi's expression didn't change. Not shock. Not anger. Just something deeper. Something tired. That child. Eliza's voice trembled now. Not weak, but breaking. Was taken from me. And you gave me this one. Naomi finally spoke. Soft. Careful. You're mistaken, ma'am. But it was too late. Because Eliza wasn't listening anymore. She had found her truth. And truth, once believed, didn't need proof. Eliza turned away, holding the child tighter, too tight, as if trying to force something, to connect. But nothing came. No calm, no bond, no recognition, only distance. And now, certainty. She wasn't losing her child. She had already lost her. By noon, Naomi was gone. No argument. No scene, no pleading, just a single order, delivered cold, final. Leave this house. And she did. Without looking back, without saying goodbye. Like she already knew, there was nothing she could say that would be heard. The nursery felt different immediately. Quieter, colder, wrong. Clara stirred in her crib. Small sounds at first. Restless. Searching. Eliza stood beside her. Hands clasped tightly. Waiting. This was it. Now things would return to how they were supposed to be. Now. She would be enough. Clara's face tightened. Her body tensing. And then, the crying came. Sharp. Immediate. Uncontrolled. Eliza reached down quickly, lifting her, holding her close, rocking, like she had seen Naomi do. Back and forth. Slow. Steady. It's all right. I'm here. But the crying didn't change. Didn't soften. Didn't slow. Eliza adjusted her grip. Tried again. Softer. Closer. I'm your mother. Nothing. Minutes passed. Then more. The sound filled the room, pressed against the walls, echoed down the halls. Servants paused, listened, did nothing, because no one had been told to interfere. Eliza's arms began to ache, her movements less controlled now, less gentle. Stop, please. But Clara didn't stop, because she couldn't, because something she needed was gone. By evening, the crying hadn't ended. It had only changed. Weaker now, hoarse, exhausted. Eliza sat in the chair, Clara against her chest, still rocking, still trying. But now, there was something else, something worse. Fear. Because the child wasn't rejecting her anymore. The child was fading. Eliza froze, her hand trembling slightly, as she pulled Clara back, just enough to see her face. Pale, too pale, eyes half open, unfocused. Oh, no, no, no. Eliza stood abruptly, the room spinning, the sound of her own breathing, too loud, too fast. Help. Her voice broke, echoing down the hallway. Someone. No one answers immediately. No one came, not right away, because for the first time, there was no one who knew what to do. And in that silence, Eliza understood something. Too late. This wasn't about taking her child back. It was about the one person who knew how to keep her alive. Footsteps came too late. A maid rushed in first, then another. Voices overlapping, confused, uncertain, afraid. Eliza, ma'am, what happened? But no one touched the child. No one reached forward, because no one knew how. Eliza stood frozen, Clara in her arms, barely breathing. Do something. Her voice cracked. Not command, not authority, a plea. Please. The room held its breath. Then, the butler stepped forward, older, steady, watching everything. He didn't look at the others, only at the child, then at Eliza. And in his eyes, something shifted. Not judgment, not fear, decision. She won't settle without her. The words were quiet, but they landed. Eliza's head snapped up. What? The butler held her gaze. Carefully. She fed that child from the first night. When the fever took you, you couldn't hold her. You couldn't feed her. Eliza shook her head. No. But the words were already breaking. That moment. That gap. The child taken from her arms. The blurred voices. The darkness. You asked us to save her. The butler continued. And Naomi was the only one who could. Eliza's grip loosened slightly. Not enough to drop her, but enough to feel the truth settle in. No one replaced your child, ma'am. The butler said softly. She kept her alive. The room disappeared, the voices, the walls, everything. Because there was only one thing left, the sound of her own breath. Breaking. I sent her away. No one answered. Because there was nothing to say. Eliza looked down, at Clara, small, fragile, fading. And for the first time, she didn't see rejection, she saw dependence, on someone else. Where did she go? Her voice was different now, lower, quieter, urgent. The butler didn't hesitate. Toward the east road. Eliza moved, fast. Without thinking. Out of the room, down the hall, through the front doors. The air was colder now, heavy with approaching rain. But she didn't slow. She ran, dress catching. Clara held close, too close. Naomi. Her voice tore through the air. Desperate, raw. No answer. Just the sound of her own movement. Her own fear. Naomi. Again. Louder. Then, a shape. Walking. Not running. Not hiding. Just walking. Naomi turned slowly, eyes meeting hers. For a moment, neither moved, because everything that needed to be said already had been. Eliza stepped forward, closer, holding Clara out slightly, not giving, not offering, asking, "Please." That was all. No explanation, no defense, no pride. Naomi looked at the child, then at Eliza, and saw it. The change. Not possession, not control, understanding. She stepped forward, carefully, slowly, and took Clara. Almost immediately, the crying changed. Not gone, but softer, closer to calm. Naomi held her close, rocking, whispering that same melody. And this time, Eliza didn't look away. She stood there, watching, not as someone being replaced, but as someone learning. Weeks later, the nursery felt different. Not divided, not tense, just shared. Clara rested between them, sometimes in Naomi's arms, sometimes in Eliza's. Not perfectly, not easily, but honestly, because motherhood was never something that could be taken, or proven, or owned. It was something that had to be given, and sometimes learned, from the person you once feared most.